in that tier with Stroud and Herbert and those guys. I wouldn't put Lawrence in that group yet.
No.
I think it's a lot of wishful thinking with $250 million that he's going to turn into what they thought he was when they drafted him first overall.
Yeah, it is a lot of wishful thinking. And it's, right place, right time. That's really what it is. Like, he's in the right place and at the right time, because you just have, a couple of these quarterbacks getting Goff and Burrow, And like we talked about with the receivers, if you're even close to that tier, like, that deal sets the floor.
Yep.
Now, I think it's a little more different for the receivers in that, like, I don't think Ayuk and Higgins will get Justin Jefferson-type money.
No, and they shouldn't.
Right, because the quarterback, you just approach that differently. Like, that situation is approached differently.
Trevor Lawrence, again, getting that the market-setting deal, at least tying Joe Burrow earlier this week. And Lawrence, 20 and 30 is the number that keeps getting thrown out. And I don't like to use that one as much because it is a little skewed by that first year. And he has been better. They've been at least in contention the last couple of years. But he's got the one playoff win, which if the Titans don't lose 7 in a row, if the officials correctly call that an incomplete pass by Josh Dobbs, and he threw 4 interceptions in the first half of the playoff game against the Chargers before having that unbelievable comeback. A lot of things had to go right for Trevor Lawrence to just get one playoff win.
Yeah.
And you see the guys that he's up there with. Jalen Hurts has been to a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow's been to a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson has won 2 MVPs. And he's just not in that same category, which I get it. You kind of had to do it if you were the Jaguars. But as Titans fans, I would feel good about this because Trevor Lawrence hasn't proven much, and now they're locked in with him for at least the next 3 years, you would think.
Yeah, at least the next 3 years. It says a 2031 void, but at least the next 3 years. And I think, when you look at this deal, the average per year, like it's a heavy number.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's just as inflated or like an image as it is heavy.
That is
true.
true.
What I mean? Because typically these deals don't get situation for them to work around, and hey, look, they're just gonna have to figure it out now. Like, they're gonna have to find ways, and now, mind you, they're entering that era, and you got the Titans and Texans entering an era where they could bring in the all-star team and put it around their young quarterbacks because they're on the other end of the spectrum as far as contracts concerned.
Once you get that big contract as a quarterback, you can't be hoping that the rest of your supporting cast will elevate you. If you're getting paid $55 million a year, you have to elevate everybody else because you just don't have as much cap space to surround yourself with, like you said, the best groceries. Like, the Jaguars can't keep Calvin Ridley. They have to go get Gabe Davis because Trevor Lawrence is getting paid $55 million a year. So the AFC South, it's going to be really interesting. I'm really excited. I kind of wish the Hard Knocks had picked the AFC South for the in-season because I think that would have been – I know the AFC North is probably the best division in football, but with the young quarterbacks in the AFC South, I think that would have been a really fun in-season Hard Knocks for this year.
You got some young guns, man, because, Richardson, he himself is someone that's just, you can't discount what he's able to do. Obviously, it hasn't been a lot as far as, like, the amount of games, but when he did play, Colts were all right,
All 4 young quarterbacks. We had a caller earlier ask us about, will all of those guys be around in 5 years? You could see it for all of them, but I think just law of averages, you would think somebody's not going to pan out somewhere. So we'll see. 2029, we'll revisit it and see who the 4 quarterbacks in the AFC South are. 615-737-1025. Last chance on phones if you want to text or call any questions for TD. Last segment coming up. We'll wrap up the show, talk a little more NFL, and Tennessee is 3 outs away from moving on to the championship series in Omaha. We'll chat about that a little bit as well. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, in for Jared Stillman. Stillman Company, 102.5, 106.3, The Game. Wrapping up the show here on this Wednesday edition of Stillman and Company. Jared again on vacation all week. Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport in with you today and tomorrow. You can tune in 3 to 6 on Thursday, and then on Friday, Chase and Big Joe will be taking over 2 to 6, and they'll be out there at the Live Golf Tournament at the Grove. So tune in for that as well. Again, Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport with you here. Last segment. We've been talking Trevor Lawrence, talking some Titans. I do want to mention, though, on the TV here in studio, Tennessee is one strike away from going to the National Championship Series where they will face either Texas A&M or Florida. It's a 3-2 count, it looks like, 2-2. My eyes are deceiving.
2-2 count.
2-2 count. So, yeah, Tennessee trying to close that out, up 7-2. It looks like it's more of just a formality here. Tennessee trying to go undefeated on their way to the championship series and guarantee another SEC national champion in baseball. 5 straight. As long as this holds here, it'll be either Tennessee, A&M, or Florida. As much as we talk about SEC dominance in football, college baseball is the SEC, right? Or the SEC is college baseball right now.
Man. You just mentioned Florida in it too. It's like it's definitely and Vandy, yeah. Vanderbilt too. Like there's a reason why you look at the SEC and how it's been. There it is right there. That's it. Tennessee's in the World Series.
So
there you go, finals.
Tennessee will play best of 3 again later on today. A&M and Florida. A&M's undefeated, so they would have to lose twice to be eliminated. Florida and Jack Caglione hoping they can keep it rolling from this morning where they blew out Kentucky. Caglione, I believe, broke the Florida all-time record with his 75th home run of his career. Brody Dene hit 2 home runs in that game. But it is crazy, the SEC. Vanderbilt won in 2019. Then COVID in 2020, there was no tournament. Ole Miss and Mississippi State flip that. Mississippi State, Ole Miss went back-to-back in 21 and 22, and then last year LSU beat Florida in the championship. And a few of those were SEC all SEC championship series because Mississippi State beat Vandy in 2021.
Yeah. Yep.
It's ridiculous how much better the SEC is at baseball than all the other conferences.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's been that way for a while, because you even go back. You got the Mississippi State teams, Will Clark and those guys. Like, it's just been that way. SEC that's where it's at when you're talking about college athletics.
And you look, even the first overall pick, like they're translating to the MLB too. Paul Skeens was drafted less than a year ago. He's already dominating up in the MLB. Wyatt Langford hit his first career outside the park home run. He had an inside the park home run, but he was drafted 4th overall last year. Dylan Cruz is moving up too. And then this year, 2 of the top 3 prospects in the MLB draft are SEC guys as well. Mentioned Jack Caglione, who pitcher and maybe the second best hitter in all of college baseball. And then Charlie Condon, who broke the single-season record for home runs earlier this year. The SEC, they just keep doing it, and it shows why a team like Florida, who is now one of the final 3 teams alive for the national championship, they went 13-17 in SEC play and were on the bubble to get into the tournament. But then they come in and they play all these non-SEC teams, and they roll the way to the national semifinals. It's crazy. So Tennessee moving on after going to Omaha 2 out of the last 3 years and not having as much success as they would like. They've won 3 straight to get their way to the championship series. Again, they'll play best 2 out of 3 against either Florida or Texas A&M. Again, wrapping up the show here. If you want to get involved, text or call 615-737-1025. TD, it's been a fun one. 3 hours has flown by. We got another one tomorrow.
It flies by when you're having fun, man. It's
definitely
been a great job driving the ship. And, hey, man, I like co-riding. It's been great.
We'll be out there at the 615 Open tomorrow at Hermitage Golf Course. So if you haven't signed up for that, 615open.com. We'd love to see you out there. Plenty of stuff to talk about tomorrow, too. I know one thing, we'll touch on it here, but I want to talk more in depth about it tomorrow, TD. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears. I'm excited to see those guys together, and I don't feel like we've talked enough about how those guys are going to get deployed, but I think that might be the spot where Brian Callahan can kind of use his creativity the most is how he's going to deploy those guys, whether that's separately or maybe on the field together.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. And tomorrow I'll have a throwback reference.
Let's go.
Of a running back tandem that we'll get into also. So it kind of reminds me of these two.
I love it. We'll talk about that a lot tomorrow. We'll get into some more Will Levis stuff. I know we talked about Trevor Lawrence and how Will Levis has these 2 years on his rookie deal to prove that he's the guy and get himself his mega extension. We'll dive more into that as well. Again, the big story right now, Tennessee moving on to the college baseball national championship series. They'll have a best of 3 against Texas A&M or Florida. I believe that'll start on Friday, no matter what happens here. So A&M and Florida, they'll play coming up in probably an hour or so, and if the Aggies win, Tennessee and Texas A&M will play for a national championship, and again, we'll get another SEC national champion. 5 straight. The last non-SEC team to win it was 2018 Oregon State. Adley Rutschman's already been dominating the MLB for a few years, and he was on the team the last time a non-SEC team won it. Just looking at this Titans stuff that we've been talking about. Again, we got that question earlier from one of our listeners about Brandon Ayuk, and we talked more about him and T. Higgins and how their situations are unfolding with Cincinnati and San Francisco. We kind of said no to Brandon Ayuk, but TD, quickly on the way out here, you did mention T. Higgins maybe as somebody the Titans could go for next year. Local guy, bring him home, and chance he hits the open market next year as the Bengals have to invest more in Jamar Chase.
I think there's a good chance he hits the open market. I don't see him taking a under the market value deal. Look how slow he was to sign the franchise tag.
Yeah.
So I think it's there's no shorts he's taking, so it's going to take money to bring him in, which means I think he's going to be available for sure.
It seems like he does want out of there, at least in some. And there was the answer. I think it was at the Super Bowl where somebody asked him about coming home and play for the Titans. He said it would be ideal. So I'm sure that there would be mutual interest there, and T. Higgins now signing that 1-year deal. Looks like he'll play it out with Cincinnati and maybe make one more shot at a Super Bowl run there. But who knows? Maybe he'll I know the picture of him winning Mr. Football in Tennessee has made its way around with the Titans jersey. Maybe we'll see that actually come to fruition on the football field.
What is he worth, though, as far as the market? Is he – not sure. He's be interested to see where he comes in on that.
Yeah.
With the whole wide receiver market the way it's upside down right now, and all these guys think they're thinking they're worth more than they really are.
Well, that's the big thing, because you look at Devontae Smith's contract. Like, I don't know that he's a better player than Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about production.
Higgins is just like a post-up kind of guy, isn't he? Like, is he a true, legit route runner?
He's not a true legit route. He's a guy you have him run that seam route, especially from the slot fade. They did that a lot, and that's one of the things I loved about Callahan is how they, worked off of that, the success that they had. But I don't think he is one of those guys that's just like a pure creator. And I mean, you talk about Devontae Smith, 3 years, $75 million. Now, obviously, yesterday's price is not today's price, so I would say, 3 years, 90, 3 years, 95, like in that range, that should probably be where he's at.
Only going to get more expensive if he hits the open market.
Yep.
We'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. That wraps up our show. Again, Jake Lyman, Teron Davenport, filling in for Jared Stillman. We'll be back tomorrow, 3 to 6, live from the 615 Open at Hermitage Golf Course. ESPN Radio is up next here on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.